welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel from Rach Elizabeth Artist, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the techniques I use for my art, specifically how I use my pencils. Typically, artists will advise that you should always keep your pencils super sharp. I'm going to tell you why I actually use blunt pencils most of the time. Now, before I start, sharp pencils absolutely have their place and I will use them in each of my portraits, but only fairly infrequently or towards the end. Primarily, I use smooth bristleboard for all of my work. It's just my paper of preference. In my previous videos, I have touched on the importance of building depth in your drawings through layering and blending. Another key area, especially when it comes to drawing animal fur, is achieving that soft, fluffy appearance. This is where my blunt pencils come in. It is very difficult with really sharp pencils, especially on smooth paper, to create a softness to your base layers because each pencil mark becomes very visible and it ends up looking scratchy, particularly with dark pencils. You can get away with it a little bit more with lighter pencils, but I still prefer them to be more blunt. So instead, I will use blunt pencils for my initial layers to block in shadows and highlights, build up that spectrum of color, and blend, especially blending. When you're blending, you definitely want to use a blunt pencil. You can see in my blended background video a perfect example of this. I use a fairly blunt green Prismacolor pencil to blend all of my layers together. If I had used a sharp Faber-Castell pencil, I would end up with visible pencil marks, which I don't want. Another reason I like using blunt pencils is simply because they last so much longer. If I'm sharpening my pencils every few minutes, because this is another thing, if you're working on a large area, they won't stay sharp for long. I wear down my pencils very quickly. So when do I use sharp pencils? I will usually use them for eyes because there is so much tiny detail in eyes, and using a blunt pencil isn't going to give you that sharpness that you're looking for. I will also use them when I go to add in fine details and fur texture. It can also depend on the pencil brand you use. So if you use a more wax-based pencil like Prismacolor or Caran d'Ache, they are a little softer, so you can get away with having a sharper point when building your layers. However, with a pencil like the Faber-Castell Polychromos, they are oil-based and have a harder lead, so are much better for fine details, but if you're using them to build up your base layers, they work a lot better if they're blunt. Again, this will depend on the paper you are using, and this is just my personal preference, but overall, I tend to favor blunt pencils for about 80% of my drawings. If you want more in-depth explanations and examples as to how and when I utilize each approach, you can check out my online pencil course where I share in detail everything you need to know to get started with color pencils. I will leave the link below in the description. I hope this was helpful and I will see you in the next video.